I'm the clerky clerk.
Watch him breeze through this meeting if he has control of it. All done.
I don't know what you're talking about. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, December 12th. I'm acting chair as the chair and the vice chair are out tonight. I'll lead everybody in the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everybody could remain, stay up,
You're
use
out,
the
you're
chair.
Oh, that was quick.
No, you're under
Oh, please stand.
Yeah, what's that?
I don't have that moment to sign.
No, it's, last week, December 7th, the day that lived in infamy. Pearl Harbor Day was last week, and prior to our last meeting, we kind of overlooked that. So tonight, I'd ask for a moment of silence for all those men and women that perished on that horrific day. Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Okay, may I borrow your agenda sheet? real quick?
Absolutely.
That's the wrong one.
Thank you very much. Oh, wait, did you already go through the
Yes,
agenda?
nope.
Okay, great.
Nope.
All right, on the docket for tonight, 6:30, organization, Pledge of Allegiance, read mail. 6:35, appointments, Director of Veteran Services, Police Communications Officer, Director of Public Works, and Records Access Officers under new Public Records Law. 7:05, public input and members update. 7:15, we'll do two things under Board of Selectmen, a review of the FY17 goals and some progress made against those goals, and a review of host community agreements. 7:45, three items under Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator for Finance and Budget. A, renewal of annual licenses for 2017. B, retiree group health insurance. C, park and rec gift funds. And then we'll close out at 8 o'clock with minutes approval. All right, Mr. Bergman, mail.
A few items in the mail packet. First is that the Department of Revenue has approved our tax rates for fiscal 2017. Last Monday night, you had your annual classification hearing, and just a few days later, DOR approved the tax rates consistent with your policy determinations. So the residential rate would be $18.15 per thousand, commercial rate $28.37, and those match the, and importantly, we want to say that those amounts include applying nearly $300,000 in new growth to reduce the tax levy, so that those rates that you see are 17 cents lower than what they would have been had the board not taken that action. So that's great news.
Fantastic.
And thanks to the finance team for proposing that strategy. Very much appreciated. Also last week, we learned that the governor made significant cuts, so-called 9C cuts to the current state budget, and among many cuts were a $50,000 earmark for Littleton, which along, as far as I could see, all the other earmarks for individual cities and towns were cut. Our legislators tell us that maybe those cuts can get restored later if revenues get better, but the revenues first have to get better at the state level in order for that to be realistic. Last bit of news is our home rule legislation for one additional all-alcohol package store license for Littleton Common is on the governor's desk, awaiting signature. And as soon as that bill is signed, the board could proceed to entertain applications. We have two expressions of interest thus far. What we talked about is putting a notice in, not only contacting those two, but putting a public notice out about the availability of the license, set a deadline, and then to have public hearings on those license applications individually, as we must under Chapter 138. Have them all on the same night, and then you choose. You can only have one. You can only issue one license. So you would choose from among applicants to do it that way. So that's it.
Remind me, was Littleton Convenience one of those on the list?
It was.
It was.
No.
No?
It was The Littleton, Common Convenience and Littleton Liquors.
Yes, common convenience.
Littleton Convenience said they wanted to put something in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so they might throw their hat in the ring, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Anybody can.
anyone could.
Yeah.
Anyone could.
Okay, very good, I think that's it for mail.
That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 2A, Director of Veterans Services Reappointment, John Borowski. John, if you want to come down, or you could stay right there, whatever you prefer.
And in fairness to John, this is in the category of long overdue. This is because we were not tracking when the appointments, that this was a 3-year appointment, not a permanent one. Every other appointment you do is a permanent one. But John reminded us that this was a 3-year term. I think actually the state agency that wants to know what your terms are reminded
Right.
John, who reminded us, and it was,
They want to see my appointment letter.
so John gets 3-year appointments.
Oops.
And he's been here a lot longer than boy.
Since 2010.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
The last one, I
Been here
think,
a while.
was, I won't say.
Was a while ago,
Was a while ago.
but if the board votes to approve this one through this coming June, then we will be in a queue that come June annual appointments will
Right.
bring another 3-year term forward. My apologies to John that this timing fell through the cracks, so. It's not because we didn't know you weren't there, so.
Oh, definitely not. We appreciate all your work, John. Board, any questions, comments on this one?
I'm sure everyone has the same opinion. We're lucky to have John doing the job he does. Thank you.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Ready? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 115, subsection 10, to reappoint John F. Borowski of Littleton as part-time Director of Veteran Services for the town of Littleton for a term expiring June 30, 2017.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thanks again, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, another appointment, Police Dispatch Communications Officer, Chief Kelly Young, if you want to come on down. Good evening.
Monday
Hello.
Night Football, can I just have a yes vote? No?
No? It's been an hour and a half.
2 minutes? As you know, we had a opening on full-time dispatch. Kelly actually is someone we've had our eye on. She actually interviewed in the last process we had last spring, and the only difference was person who won out happened to be a part-time employee already for us, so. As you see from Kelly's resume, she currently is an E911 certified dispatcher. She's worked for Life Flight, Patriot Ambulance, I believe still holds her EMT, is current her EMT. We're, really great that when we were able to reach out to Kelly when we had this opening, that she still was very interested in coming to Littleton. So we're really excited about getting her on board the desk. Another person who would be a career communications E911 dispatcher, which is important for stability within that unit also. So with that, I'll leave you, Kelly, you're at their mercy.
Excellent. Well, Kelly, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? We've got your resume here, but especially for those folks that don't have your resume in front of us.
Sure. My name is Kelly Young. I've been dispatching a little over 20 years. I started out in a small town dispatching. I went on to dispatch for Life Flight EMS. I worked on an ambulance as an EMT for a while. And very excited to be in Littleton. Personally, I have 2 daughters, one in college, one in high school, and I live in Shrewsbury right now.
Okay, very good. Now the board will want to ask you some questions. Mr. Carr, if I may.
Sure.
Start with you.
I see you're currently a dispatcher out in Westminster.
That's correct.
Are you gonna, you're part-time out there. I got you. So, you'll take this full-time, and you're also working at the New England Organ Bank?
Yeah, that was previous.
Oh, I got you. So you'll be full-time here. I guess, what's your experiences with the Life Flight in Worcester? I see, what was your role there?
Sure. So I worked there for about 12 years. I coordinated all emergency transport. We covered a lot of New England, Central Mass. we would get a call for emergency services. I would coordinate landing zones, take all patient information, relay it to UMass. We'd fly them into the university or into Boston. And then including MD Access, which coordinated ICU patients into our facility and out of our facility at UMass.
Interesting. I see through your experience and just what you're describing, as Chief said, we want somebody that's stable and having those nerves of steel, so to speak. And that's very important to that position, so I appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knox?
Why Littleton? Is there a special, is it just because it's a full-time job, or do you have a special connection to the town or the area, or?
No special connection to the town. My fiance, I'm getting married next July, he works for Maynard Fire, and we're looking to possibly move closer this way once we get married. He's currently in Westminster and we're looking to relocate. We have been for about a year now.
That's all.
Mr. Stigley?
Yeah, I think most of the obvious questions have been asked, but I just noticed in looking over your impressive resume, you were at UMass Lifeline for 9 years. It looked like you made a bit of a career change when you went to the organ bank. Was that anything?
Yes, that's
Just
correct.
looking to see what a different path looked like? Is that what it was?
Sure. So a little bit about that. UMass went through some major layoffs. They were laying off managers of 20 years. I had 2 children, so I wanted stability. I had known some paramedics who went over to the New England Organ Bank, and I have a lot of compassion for people. So I figured that would be a good chance to try something new. And it was absolutely wonderful. The gifts and working with families, when they lose people.
Right.
I was laid off from there, and I felt that dispatching was absolutely my number one
Right.
career, and that's where I want to stay.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Literally just answered my question, which was that what dispatch is now, where do you maybe want to branch out to from there, but dispatching is your passion.
Since I was in high school, absolutely, yes.
Madam Chair, if we could just add one thing. On the Westminster note, Jessie Bowen, who we hired last April, was from Westminster, if you
That's
recall. She was actually going to be filling his job in January, full-time, but we stole her before they got her.
I remember
A
just.
lot of thought, but.
Nice.
Westminster may not talk to me very much.
Yeah, really. Be careful here. Anything else you'd like to share with us, or Chief, anything else? No? You good, guys? Think so.
All right, we'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Kelly Young of Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, to a full-time benefited position of police dispatch / communications officer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank
you.
you.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Yeah, I know, watch out in this area. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, yeah.
Get up here. John Borowski.
We didn't get to
Shake
shake your
everybody's
hand.
hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's always nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Watch out, watch out. See, you're trying to kill him, aren't you? Jeez.
All
Just
right,
meant it as a joke.
one more.
Joke around here, Joe.
Approval of appointment, Director of Public Works, Christopher Stoddard. So, you must be Christopher,
Candidate
okay?
Chris
Hello.
Stoddard. Please have a seat. Just by way of introduction, you recall that back in September, the Board of Selectmen voted to authorize the filling of a position of Director of Public Works at grade 13. We advertised, we had a total of 18 applications. I formed a search committee which included myself, Bonnie Holston, Jim Clyde from Highway, Kevin Hunt from Water, I asked Scott Edwards if either Scott could do it, or if he couldn't, someone else, and he volunteered Kevin. Plus Paul Starrett, Westford Town Engineer, and Selena Shaw, Boxborough Town Administrator, who I know was looking to try to figure out how to reconfigure her highway department. And we reached the unanimous consensus that Chris Stoddard, who's currently town engineer in Greenfield, should be appointed as our DPW director in Littleton. Chris is a PE. He's a registered professional engineer. He has a bachelor's of science degree in civil engineering from UMass. And I think he's got a very interesting life story about how he worked for many years in a non-management capacity, and before stealing his thunder. And I know that we normally ask a candidate to tell us their story and why they're interested in it, and I think that would be a good time to hear from Chris.
Perfect.
So, invite Chris to-
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
Actually, I graduated high school 2003, and I didn't want any part of college. I was done, so I ended up getting a job in construction, running heavy equipment. I ran for about 4 years, and then I decided I wanted to go back to school. Worked full-time the entire time I was there, running heavy equipment. Graduated college, kind of in the down market, so there wasn't really a good job in engineering. Went back into the heavy construction industry, did a lot of site work, market baskets, things like that. Ended up getting the job opportunity in Fitchburg as the junior engineer. Excelled, took off there. We did a lot of real cool things there. Ended up getting the job in Greenfield. Took the PE, passed the test, so now I'm the head engineer out there. Done a lot of infrastructure work out there. Is now the design and the head, the head engineer out there. So, and this was just kind of my next step, my progression in my career was to become a DPW director somewhere. And this position opened up, so I thought it was a real good fit, and that's why I ended up applying for it. So.
Okay, very good. That covers the basics. All right, if we may, we could ask you some questions now. All right, wonderful. Okay, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to go to my left this time. Mr. Glavy.
Chris, in your work in both Fitchburg and I guess more pointedly Greenfield, you're town engineer. What's the structure there? Who do you report to, and who reports to you?
Okay, so I report directly to the Director of Public Works out there. I currently have a staff of 2 engineering technicians, an assistant engineer, and then I have approximately 3 to 4 interns in the summer. They're my full-time staff. When the director's on vacation, absent, I actually take over as the interim DPW director. He usually goes on a couple of 2-week vacations a year, so it's probably a month and a half over the course of the whole year that I actually am the head, the director out in Greenfield.
Mm-hmm. And what are the municipal functions that the DPW handles in Greenfield?
We handle all of sewer, water, highway, street, drains, transfer. We have a transfer station out there that we actually pick up recycling and trash, snow plowing, sanding, salting, all of the engineering, all of the property line delineations, road layout, record keeping. That's about it. All the design capital projects we oversee.
Mm-hmm. And how would you describe the internal process for whether you use outside engineering or do you do all of your engineering in-house, or what's the delineation there?
A lot of it, I make the decision. It depends on what the workload is, whether or not we do interior design or contract it out. Right now, we're fairly busy, so I have 3 projects that I've just designed, but I had to outsource the engineering for 3 sewer pump stations we just did. I don't do, because I'm not a structural engineer, I can't do like bridge design and things like that, so all of that gets outsourced. Primarily anything infrastructure under the road, pipes, road design, like, that's usually all in-house. But mostly it's schedule related.
And given what you know about the position here in Littleton as it's, being created, is that your anticipation? Or what would be your anticipation as far as amount of engineering work done in-house?
Yeah, because I would be only one person, right now because I have staff, I have the ability to go out and do all our own survey in-house. Then I have the time, we sit down all together and do the design work. Well, I do mostly design, I build the specs, and then we go out to bid. Here, it might be a little tougher, I think, because of the fact I'm only one person, I can't do 4 people's jobs to get to that design. But there are ways around that. We could hire out survey, which cuts out a lot of that, and then I could do design in-house. I think a lot of it, most likely, as I see it, would be a little bit of engineer oversight, a lot, and then the easier, I shouldn't say easier, the less in-depth projects, probably being able to design in-house. Designing 4 miles of road is a monumental task. So when you guys hire a contract engineer, they're not just one person, there's many people working on it. But a small, couple 100-foot drain line project, real easy, that's real easy to do in-house. Sidewalk design, real easy to do that kind of work in-house. I don't know if does that answer your question?
Oh, sure it does, yeah. Thanks.
Mr.
Paul actually got a lot of my questions answered in regards to, what your responsibilities were and what I'm looking for in Littleton. From my personal perspective, it's exactly that. We're looking for your expertise as an engineer, a PE, to come in and say, our consultants are, I think they tend to over-engineer stuff. Would look for you to kind of say, well, do we really need to do that? Think outside the box and say, this road's existed for 80 years and it's been fine. Why are you doing that? So question the process is really what I'd like to see you do. Your resume is, you're pretty well-rounded. As you know, Jim has been around for a long time. He does a fantastic job. I think with your engineering background, it's just a win-win for the town. And it's good to hear about the sidewalks, because we really need help with sidewalks and to get safer walking for the pedestrians in town too. So that's really all I got to say. Thank you.
Mr. Knox?
Hey, Chris, have you had a chance to take a look at our facilities and our employees?
Yes, I came down last Thursday and Jim took me, I was for about 2.5 hours. We toured the city, or town. We went through the whole facility. I met a couple of the foremen, the office administrator. So yeah, I've toured most of the city. So.
Do you see any changes that you have to make right away? Or, I guess I'm asking, where do you hit the stand and where does Mr. Clyde and so forth?
Yeah, no, so I've been thinking about that myself. I think Jim's been here for a lot of years. I don't think coming in and trying to make wholesale changes makes sense right away. Let's see how Jim does it. I mean, he's been here a long time. I think he's probably very good at the operations standpoint of it. So I wouldn't even want to mess with that unless I saw glaring issues. I think the biggest thing for me would be coming in, establishing who we have for engineers, what we have projects coming up in the spring, then start to kind of delve into that issue first to make sure that we are getting the best product out of our engineers before we go out to bid and hire contractors and get them on board. So that would probably be my main concern. When I first get in, that'd be one of the first things I would take care of. I would try to work on doing.
Okay. I know from the committee that was put together that to do all the interviews, just from the personnel people and the talents they have, I'm pretty comfortable that the choice that they would make. And I know Mr. Bergman so far has talked very highly of you. So that's it for me.
My favorite answer that Chris didn't give is on what he would need, and his question to us was, after he toured it, where's the computer? Where's the software? Where's the hardware for him to be doing his in-house engineering? Great question, and fortunately we have a great answer because Nancy knew that we were filling an engineer position to do work in-house, so there's money in the IT budget for the hardware and software that Chris will need to hit the ground running. So we're ready to work, Nancy's ready to work with Chris even now to figure out what we should be ordering for when he arrives here.
Well,
That was a great question.
let me ask more about that question then. What will that help you to do? What will that software help you to?
So we can't design any projects without having AutoCAD. That's the industry standard. I need it to do anything, edits to plans, if we were to have a surveyor do it. Simple review of our consulting engineer's plans, I would need it to basically do the review on that. GIS is another big software that we would need. That's gonna be a necessity because of this MS4 permit, or you guys are now under. I need to have GIS, it's an industry standard. Is that enough?
Yeah, those are a good example, definitely. And now that you mentioned.
HP?
Yeah, that's the next question. If not, I can.
Never mind.
And the MS4 permit, what's your experience with that?
I've actually never, Greenfield isn't tied under the MS4 permit, Fitchburg is now. We came in, I left Fitchburg right before the new MS4 permit came out, but we knew it was coming, so we did a lot of, and actually because of my experience in Fitchburg, when I got to Greenfield, I was nervous that we were gonna get tied under, so I started the process. I've done all the drainage mapping in Greenfield in preparation for the MS4 permit. We've set up a lot of the GIS work ahead of time, even though that's, I think, year 2 or 3 on the permit. We got that all done. We started the stormwater guide. We started doing public outreach. Because we're not we weren't falling under in Greenfield, we didn't have to follow it, but I started the process, so in 4 years, if the permit comes out again and they get hit with it, they should be already have the ball rolling.
I certainly appreciate being proactive as a natural trait, so, okay, that helps. All right, fantastic. I guess I just, echo a little bit of what Selectman Carr said. Jim is our number one guy. He's been our number one guy for a long time, and we need help him. The success is partially down to the relationship here and the support you guys give each other, and I just wish you all the best. So that's it from my side. Yes,
One last question.
absolutely.
Taylor's or People's Pint?
I've actually only ever been in Taylor's Tavern.
Okay, well, that's good.
So I can't comment
We
either.
had my daughter's wedding reception at People's Pint.
Oh, did you? Oh, well.
It was a small affair. We sat around one big table in Greenfield.
Yeah, he does, of course he does.
I was in Greenfield last week, so that's unfair. Yeah.
I was gonna say,
I was in Greenfield on Saturday.
Too funny.
it's a long commute.
I live in Athol, so.
About halfway, same price, yeah.
It's the same,
Yeah.
it's, I think, 2 minutes difference
Wow.
here to there, yeah.
You'd just be looking into the sun every
Right.
day as you drive.
I had to do it in Fitchburg for 4 years, so.
Ready, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to the Town Code, Chapter 3, Section 3, to approve the appointment by the Town Administrator Christopher J. Stoddard, P.E., of Athol, Mass., to the full-time grade 13 salaried position of Director of Public Works effective January 9th, 2017.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Very excited to have you.
Welcome aboard, congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, one last appointment, and I see something, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
January 9th, I will be.
He's been up it's been a long day.
Oh, right.
Does that mean we don't get to see him all the time?
He'll come.
We can always see Jim.
Sure.
Jim's a fixture.
Okay, appoint records access officers.
Yes, with the new public records law, which takes effect on January 1st, the old term of records custodian is passé, and now the new one is records access officers. And it's not, and it used to be automatic who a custodian of the public record was. If you had it, you were the custodian. So everyone was a custodian. Now, the new law essentially requires more responsibility and tracking requests and making sure that we're, if appeals are filed to the state, that we're in good order. So by statute, one of the records access officer, or let me say, by statute, the town clerk is a records access officer. And we could choose to stop right there and say that every request for public record has to go through Diane Crory. That's not workable. And in fact, we need to designate some others as record access officers. And the list that I'm bringing you tonight I should also mention, under the law, either an agency head, or in the case of a municipality, the CEO, which is you. You're the town of Littleton, the selectmen are the head, and that for any part of the town, including schools, including light and water, which are, in terms of the public records law, they're not separate agencies, they're part of municipal government. So, so I talked to the school superintendent, and I've reached out to the light and water general manager. Both are agreeable to being records access officers in their bailiwicks, and that only makes sense because I don't want those requests coming through me or Diane if they can go through someone else. So,
But properly, are their boards aware? I mean, both of those folks work for a board. And I obviously have no problem with doing that, but I just think it's a matter of protocol.
we can make those appointments subject to approval by their boards.
Exactly what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody's nose to get out of joint unnecessarily.
Yeah, I think that's fine, subject to approval by their boards. And if we don't, and I know many of the requests that come to the superintendent are on confidential personnel matters that I don't want us in the middle of. I don't want us in the middle of it. And in the case of the police chief, who, when I told Chief King that my first thought was, well, for all of the general government functions, I think, well, I'll just have the board appoint me, I'll see what comes through, and then I'll see if maybe I designate more department heads. And he chuckled, because there are,
Probably do 30 to 40 public records requests a week.
per week, and there's no,
Reports for
and,
police reports
yeah.
and everything else. that-
And those don't need to be coming, if there's a system that's set up, I
I'll
think.
certainly send them to Keith.
No, see, that was exactly the expression on his face. So I would like to add to the list, the police chief and fire chief. It may be, as we live with this a little longer, that becomes cumbersome, and it looks like we'd have to train other department heads as records access officers and bring back additional appointments, but for now, I prefer to keep it to a manageable number of records access officers. And if we need more, we won't be afraid to come back. We're going to be scheduling training for this group, that we'll have Tom Harrington come out here in the next week or so and train us on what our responsibilities are under the law. But this is our last meeting before the law takes effect. I'd like to get, I have the designations as a matter of record.
It just occurs to me as you're speaking, Keith, this is fine for now, but I assume you've given some thought to maybe one of the other areas that gets a lot of requests would be the regulatory boards. Have you had conversations with those folks, Maren or
Well,
whomever?
those I actually want to see,
Okay.
because I'm not always in the loop on those.
I
and
appreciate
think
your
that- I
honesty.
think
That's fine.
I think that'll suddenly get me in a loop that I would have been wanting to
Okay, but-
get in, so.
So if in fact those boards come before us and say, hey, we want to get,
Then
we'll
we treat it
deal with that when it comes.
Yep. Okay, just wanted to
If
get
I may,
that out
Madam
there.
Chair?
Absolutely.
So a couple questions and concerns that I have. It's a lot of people, and I think that there should be a process or a procedure in place where at least we have one go-to person to kind of monitor what's going on. Now, I don't know if it's a database that can be developed or something that should come together.
I think that's the correct that would be the correct thing for us to do, because it is about managing all the requests and monitoring it, and I think the solution, the idea of an automated solution where we're all entering into the same database, so that
And that's exactly what I'm thinking. It's, you know, we don't want to put it on all the town clerk, we don't want to put it all on the police chief to do everybody else's work, but those folks that are the public records officers should have access to some type of database, so it can at least be logged in. If there's an issue with the town, we can say, yes, we do, and here's what we do. Secondly, I think, if we could, I don't know what that is out there or what it looks like, but at least have a database so the town can log into it. I don't know if Nancy can work into something. Secondly, probably a year and a half ago, when the legislation was going through its process, I was gonna actually sit down and we were gonna write a policy on public records because of there was one big one that had come in or something that kinda,
there was a question about what we could charge. and
what we
all
could
that.
charge and, you know, and then this came aboard.
We charge a nickel a page.
Yeah, so it kind of really blew up everything that we were thinking and that we had. So my question is, do we develop with this procedure in place, maybe a supplement to this law, so we have some type of policy that we can have?
Yes, I think
moving
that
forward.
would be exactly correct, because while, even when I've seen other towns do, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. There's some towns structure around what's called a super RAO, which I think Diane could be. That where you have a number of designations, you still have someone manage the whole process, so that we can develop that procedure. I think the idea of tracking it electronically with a database is also an important part of how that would work, so that we could, I'd say we could bring back something in the month.
I think someone walking in the building's gonna stop at the clerk's office and say, hey, I wanna see this, how do I do it? And if Diane and all these records officers have, looking at the same document to say, this is our policy, here's the law,
Yeah.
go see the fire chief, go see the police chief, town administrator, or whatever.
And even at another level, and one thing that I want to be able to address with staff and maybe through training, right now, there's a lot of requests, there's a lot, small R requests for information that people simply go to an office and they get. And I don't want to discourage any of that from happening. And I don't want anyone to think that they suddenly have to be, for the person that goes into the, planning board office, hey, do you have the minutes from the last meeting or a copy of the decision? We want to be able to
Absolutely.
promote public access and not trip ourselves or the public up on a process. So,
So you're gonna be sending out, or somebody gonna be sending out a memo to all the departments, so there's no confusion on that? I don't want anybody home watching this saying, well, I no longer have to answer to the public anymore,
yeah, no smiles like the chiefs. But at the same time, we have, at the same time, we have the obligation to track when a request comes in. So, whether it's, we're gonna have to have a little bit more formality than we have now, just because we have a statutory obligation we didn't have before to track them. But we'll work that out. We'll have training, and we'll talk through a policy that makes sense with the staff.
Right.
And involve the people.
Let's not build this huge policy, make it, you have a procedure, policy, nice, sweet, short, done.
Yeah.
The law's big enough,
Yeah.
we don't need to add to it more bureaucratic nonsense.
Okay, so we can bring that back, I would say, in January.
Sure.
Our meeting in January.
You don't wanna vote on this now?
No, we'll bring the procedure back.
Yeah.
We have a comment
But I
from
need to vote
Chief.
tonight.
Just real quick too, I did, when I was talking to Mr. Bergman about this, I also did commit to obviously continue, when we get the 40, 30 to 50 to 40 or whatever it is, number a week, the oddball ones, I still call to Mr. Bergman's attention, like when we got the ones from Fox 25 or the ones from
The Lowell
the
Sun.
colleges, things like that, because they end up being
Or
news
the
stories.
Independent, actually.
They end up being news stories, so, obviously, when it's just I don't wanna call them mundane, but the normal business ones, but the odd business ones, I still will call Mr. Bergman, and I'm sure maybe the policy that'll be developed on, that's gonna go to Diana or whoever, so more so the board can end up knowing, hey, Fox 25 just requested everyone in the state's use of force policy.
Yep,
There's gonna be a story going on in the paper and, whatever.
yep, red flag items. Thank you.
Is the reason that the town clerk isn't on that list is because she already is a
Because she
representative?
already is by statute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion, board?
Ready?
Good to go.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 66, subsection 6A, to appoint the following positions as records access officers under the new public records law. Town Administrator, Superintendent of School, LELWD General Manager, Police Chief, Fire Chief, effective January 1st, 2017, subject to approval by Light and Water Commissioners and School Committee
For those.
for those specific, positions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, public access records officers. Say that 3 times fast. Okay, that brings us to item 3, public input. Is there any public input? Public input? No.
Is there any public?
There's not a whole lot of public.
It's George.
All right, oh, yes.
Curling up.
His perfect
Say again.
attendance is, out the
Rest of my
window.
audience.
All right, so that means members' input is up. Selectmen Carr, member input.
Only one comment, we hear a lot of stories about social media, and the folks that like to hide behind a keyboard and throw out all these nasty messages out on social media. I'm sure that most of the town heard about a group of women in town that started a GoFundMe page for the Council on Aging Transportation page. And in 2 days, they raised $3,000, $3,500 for transportation for the COA. You hear all the negative stories out there. People love to put the bad stuff and hide behind their keyboards. Well, this town has a group of folks that took social media and just did a fantastic job raising over $3,000 for our seniors in town. So I want to say thank you to the women and Tim Wickham, the only guy that's in the group.
Mike Prue's in there, too.
Oh, Mike Prue, too, all right. The men and women of this group that really took this to heart and did a fantastic job, so thank you. I'm sure they'll be before us at a later meeting so we can recognize them all, so,
Very good.
thank you.
Mr. Knox?
I was going to bring up the same thing, but what I do want to mention, I was at the COA meeting today, and Pam brought it up, and Pam had a nice letter that went out and thanked these people. And it's important not to go in the negative part of it, but someone had said not too long ago when I saw a Littleton Cafe, what's ever happened to our small little town? And I said, our small little town is still fantastic, and it is. We have so many great people. And this is just like a sense of community that you have here, that people out on their own, they happen to see it on TV. They asked for my records of this, went through and said, hey, we can solve this problem by ourselves and get relieve some of the pressure there. And I just think that's community right there. That's a real sense of Littleton.
Well said.
Yeah, I'll second that, too. I'm glad I got my contribution in just before I came down here online by GoFundMe, so I can join the crowd on that. But these are the same folks, in large measure, who were very responsible for the public effort to back the Fields program, too. And they recognized with that they weren't just gathering votes for town meeting, but they also took on the responsibility of doing outside fundraising for maintenance. So, I mean, that sense of not only community, as Joe said, but accountability, too, is terrific and important. The other thing I would just add in a note of memoriam, passing of Booth Jackson, a longtime electrical inspector for the town of Littleton. And I'll tell you, back when I was in my first go-around on this board, I'm going to try to say this so that it comes across complimentary, but if I had more calls on one person who worked for the town, it was probably Booth, and Joe would know that. In retrospect, if you live in a home that was inspected while Booth was the electrical inspector, rest assured there is nothing wrong with that. But a lot of homeowners and a lot of contractors pulled their hair out trying to comply with a very, very tough, but I think in the long run, the town appreciates a good job that that a longtime servant of the town did, and just wanted to recognize his work.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I would just give a quick master plan update, but we have goals coming up, so I'm not going to do that. So just very quickly, a happy birthday to Kristen Sabota. That is all from my side. Okay, that's public input member updates. So, as I mentioned, our next topic is reviewing our goals that we set for 2017. And Keith, you prepared a nice
You've got
little...
11 goals, and I spent some time today putting the summary that you have into the form of a couple of tables. So just as a summary information.
Great.
So for those 11 goals, I've got this table that's up on the screen to just highlight. And as I was filling them in, it just struck me, there's an awful lot that's been accomplished thus far. There are some things we haven't gotten to yet, but there's an awful lot. And maybe if I could I promise quickly, just run through them. Master plan update, we're in general, we're on track for bringing something to the May annual town meeting. There have been a number of public forums, huge amount of public participation overall. Housing is another part of that master plan update. The statistics are, we got the numbers in for this year, and we went from 12.7% up to 12.9% as our, but we're going to plateau there. And we need to, if we want to add any additional units beyond the 444 that we have now, we're going to need to be proactive in the coming year. And I know the planning board's looking at some zoning amendments perhaps to address some of that. On open space and recreation, we submitted the plan to the state. We submitted which it's in the process of being approved. We did submit a land grant application to the state for open space. It was not funded, and those properties that property is going to come back for further discussion. Green communities, our goal is twofold. Number one, to spend the year one grant monies that we have by the end of this year, and then to prepare a round two grant application for $250,000 next year. So we've got our projects all but completed now for this year. We've just got $1,000 or so that we have to make sure gets spent.
A lot of LED lights out there.
Well, that's it, yeah, and if our default position is that on some of the ones some of the projects that we're able to get done, we've reprogrammed money to the LED streetlights where there's always more to be done. Economic development, the EDSAT self-assessment report was completed, and and tomorrow is the state board that votes on the TIF application for the former Very Fine property. I know there's an awful lot on economic development we have not done, and I think that needs to be something that we spend some quality time on in our upcoming meetings. Littleton Common Sewer Strategic Plan, $250,000 was approved by town meeting to update the 2012 study and do a full build-out analysis. We're exploring that scope of work to get that out on the street. I'd say Bob Zimmerman has been in touch with us, with the team, to help put together a scope that we can get out and get the work, get some consultants to apply for the work be done. I'm looking forward to having Chris Stoddard, PE, on board as part of our team to help us with that. And we're also looking for what state grants we can apply for, including some energy grants. Transportation, a number of things to report. That the trains, while not running on time, always, or at least they're running earlier. That we've now got the earliest train reverse commuter of the day arrives here at 7:06 a.m. with the latest schedule, and there's some other early morning ones. We're continuing to discuss with the MBTA. They're adding additional parking spaces at the Littleton lot. That's still a conversation underway. They developed plans. We're looking at ways to fund them and how the town could be of help in the short term to, help them clear the way for adding parking. Mass DOT has awarded a couple of grants that address transportation. One is for a third shuttle for our Littleton COA that Pam Campbell was able to get. And also a pilot project monies that Crosstown Connect obtained, which that organization is making available for Littleton so we can launch a last mile shuttle that will connect Littleton Station with other places like the IBM or the Point or something. So we're excited about developing that for later in the winter. Roadway plan, you had your public hearing this summer where you made the policy decision to add Foster Street and Mattawanakie Trail as the next two projects up in the line. I would dare say that with the additional staff capacity that we're just bringing on board, that when we do next, in the spring, when we do another review of where are we with the plan, we will very likely see some other variations of that. Maybe what can we do that's not full reconstruction? What can we do as some, smaller projects to be able to address more roadway? So we're interested in working with Chris Stoddard on that. Complete Streets Grant, as we said last time, we got almost $400,000 for pedestrian improvements, including the sidewalk on Russell Street. In Elder and Human Service needs.
Can I just jump back to the
yeah.
roadway? On the 21st of this month,
Yes.
we have a meeting with MassDOT that was set up in Worcester to talk about what we can get out of the project that's going to take 2A 110 from Westwood to 495 and 119 2A from Acton to Groton. What type of improvements we can add to that? Sidewalks, granite, curbing. So hopefully we'll have some good news prior to that project kicking off in the spring.
Great, thanks. And then the other goals, Elder and Human Service needs, we heard last time from Pam Campbell, and the 2 points that she made, while we've got space needs on our list, what Pam has on her list is for us not to forget programmatic needs, including if there's additional staffing, especially if solving the space needs issue is a longer time horizon than addressing some of the programmatic needs that they have. And also, we'll continue to review some options for tax relief, especially for income-eligible seniors, and we'll bring back some more information on that. Public safety strategic plans, that goal, an awful lot is happening. Town meeting funded expansion project for the fire station. The groundbreaking is this Saturday morning at 8 a.m. at 20 Foster Street, so. And it's gonna, Jim's gone, Jim, where are you? But the snow is coming, is it coming Friday?
We can shovel snow and stuff.
Okay, all right, fine. It's only, well,
all
right,
good.
because we're gonna be given shovels, right, so we're all set. Police department received certification in its accreditation process, and that's a great accomplishment, great milestone. Our community compact from last year included public safety strategic plans for the police and fire departments. I've seen a draft of the police plan. I know the fire one is in process, and so those, we can be bringing those forward to the board for your
Yes.
review
We have our
early
draft
next
in
year.
hand for police, yes.
Another thing that we had on this list was the hazard mitigation plan, which is a public safety issue. MAPC presented that to us. They've submitted it to NEMA or FEMA. And I guess I put in the category of to be done is to address the opioid Narcan plan that I know the selectmen had as something that we wanted to address, so that's on our to be done list. Organizational review, progress on both of the ones we'd identified, highway engineering with the appointment now of the DPW director effective January 9th. And with the administration and finance reorganization plan that was approved by town meeting, that we're accepting applications for the new created position of assistant town administrator through January 11th, and we're looking to bring have the first round application interviews rather in January, and then bring to the board a set of finalists, at least 3, finalists for you to interview in perhaps early January. Bylaws and regulations, what we've done thus far is you've approved a whole set of wetlands regulations that Conservation Commission brought, and we will be in the process, as we talked about tonight, of implementing the new public records law. We don't actually have other things that we've identified on our radar screen to address with bylaws.
We do.
Yeah, there was
We do.
the town meeting vote
The town meeting.
procedure,
Town meeting vote.
the famous
Yes,
one.
indeed. Okay, town meeting. How to do town meeting better.
Yes, that bylaw. The better town meeting bylaw.
Better town meeting bylaw. The BTMB. Okay, long-range fiscal plan, I know there are a number of amendments to the financial policy that are under review by the working group, and those will be discussed and brought forward, so including having a TIF policy, or having more of a TIF policy than we have now. Also wanted to put up as an accomplishment thus far is the progress that we've been able to make on debt exclusion stabilization fund, both by funding it with $500,000 at town meeting, but also by doing the next best thing when you set the tax rate of applying money directly to, so that we didn't have to raise excluded debt on the tax rate. So one way or another, there's about $800,000 worth of benefit that's accrued this year from the board's actions. So that's a lot happening.
Not bad.
Town facilities, alumni field renovations were funded, and we, along with 2 studies for fields needs assessment to be done by Park and Rec, and town government space needs to be done by PMBC, and we'll be working with both of those groups on getting the RFPs out the door. So that's a summary of what
We've been up to
we've
for
been
half
up
a
to our
year.
goals.
I think that's not bad. Not bad at all. So, okay, so that's a great status recap. I guess a couple of things off the top of my head. One is, I think Selectman Glavy, you brought it up, and that is, let's figure out where there's kind of open actions and kind of get those scheduled. Second thing, so maybe 3 things. That, second thing is, oh shoot, I already forgot the second thing. But I was thinking just conceptually, is this the next type of thing that we could leverage to publicize? You know, here's where we're at midway. We set our goals at the beginning of the year, you know, in terms of getting the notice out to the public and leveraging, you know, the features that we have available to do that, like press release, et cetera. You know, is this a good event? Here's our progress update to leverage that communication vehicle.
Sure, let's do that, but let's, you know, I'm all for following up on the first suggestion, and that's.
Yeah, what's the missing,
Yeah,
scheduling the missing
right.
actions?
Yeah, we've had, just by holding ourselves accountable, the more often we look at this list, I just think we find ourselves more likely to act on things.
Mm-hmm.
And for things that need town meeting approval in May, those deadlines pass quickly, especially when the next month is going to be, you know, kind of a dormant one, which I would suggest, and I will suggest, maybe it shouldn't be, but that's a great opportunity for those of us who have commitments in here to do some things outside of the meeting and come back.
Progress.
And I don't know how you want to handle this, Madam Chair, but I just want to make a couple of
Please?
points. I think
Go
Keith
for it.
hit on these. I'll just try to use the topic points that are already identified, and, you know, kudo to everybody who had a role in any of these successes, but particularly Keith for kind of making sure that anything that we've adopted as a goal and settled on a specific objective gets done, so thank you. I'll hit the areas where I have a identified responsibility, but also those where I have an interest. The first one, the master plan update. It occurs to me that we should make sure that as many of our goals as they are identified here get incorporated into the next phase of the master plan. Most of you and I are both on that committee, but all the committee members, the selectmen members, have been very good about participating in that. And as we all know, after the meeting last week, the next month is going to be looking at policy solutions to address identified goals. And I think the committee, and rightfully so, has done a great job of making sure the general public has been solicited for opinions, but board members shouldn't take a back seat, especially if we have things that we shouldn't we should make sure we're not going too much on parallel tracks without meshing them. So in the next point, I think it's important, probably especially for the two of us, since we serve on that committee, to make sure that our goals don't get lost in the master plan process. I mean, I just remember at one point, no particular criticism to anybody, but, our consultants weren't even very aware prior to town meeting what we were doing at town meeting. So, you can look too much in the future and not be, you gotta be both looking in the future and at what you're doing right in the here and now, too. What's not also evident, just sticking on the master plan update topic, or the general topic, the open space issues, I think there's two areas where we've talked about doing things, and unless we do something proactively to engage people, it probably won't get done. One is, whether it's with CPC or the Open Space Committee, is coming up with some guidelines for prioritization of properties, right? We've talked about how important it is, and when properties come up, we give them a review, but if we know in advance, what kind of criteria we're looking for, then we'll find it easier to say no to the first thing in line, if that's the appropriate answer, so that we actually have money for number two that comes in line, which might actually be a better project and not just, hit the next one in line. And the second thing is, the topic that keeps coming up and we don't have a specific plan for is farmlands protection, which may not just be as simple as purchasing. It's probably, the logical way is a more hand-in-hand approach with the farm owners and trying to come up with ways to, protect their properties in the ways that they're comfortable with. So that obviously involves conversations with the Ag Commission, the actual property owners, planning board, et cetera. Down on economic development, I know the Economic Development Committee, and, thanks to the Light Department too for helping along with their consultants, they're putting together a website. So I think once that prototype comes, is available for review, they'll probably want to come back in and meet, and as, Keith suggested, we probably ought to reconnect on that and then talk about next issues, because I think once they get the website out there, they want to do a lot more on-the-ground outreach, working with the business community, promoting individual properties, that sort of thing.
Should we reach out to them, or do you think they'll knock on our door when they're ready?
Well, I'm in the loop on that, so
Okay.
I'll make sure.
When they're ready.
Neil O'Leary's the chair right now, and Ivan's been very involved since he, like Jim, is on the Light Commissioners too, so, the Common Sewer Strategic Plan, we talked about this last meeting. We know what the next steps are. As Keith mentioned, Bob Zimmerman is already pushing the grant stuff. We got to get that RFP out the door so that we got enough of a turnaround before town meeting that we don't lose part of that cycle, and that's a challenge, but I think we're probably going to have to, you're not going away for too many weeks, are you, this winter? We're probably going to have to put our heads together on that.
I'm hoping to get away for a week in March, though.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, by then, everything will be in the works. Okay. Obviously, the two RFPs that we approved at town meeting, love to, Keith, you're on top of both those, the space needs for the building and the open and the fields ones?
We'll be moving forward with those boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, these were our initiatives, so I'd kind of like to make sure we get a chance to review things before they go, the language goes out.
Sure, well, we'll work with, we were working with Ivan at Park and
Okay.
Rec about that scope, so we'll make sure we're touching bases with him to come back here.
Okay. I would just assume the board would like to see what
Yes.
the language is, right? Yeah, Jim, you and I, we both are on the financial plan subcommittee. We obviously had a pretty busy fall, and we were not able to get many attempts were made to get that going, but it just didn't work on people's schedule. We probably ought to do that before the budget meeting, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you're gonna be, when do you leave?
The 7th, the 6th.
Oh,
6th is a
January?
Friday?
We got plenty of time.
Yeah, 6th is a Friday.
And the last thing I would mention, and thank you for the indulgence, is on the organizational review. Now, it's true, we acted on the engineer and the finance and administration, but there are this became a catch basin for other ideas, which we haven't talked about in much detail. I know, Madam Chair, you and I had talked about some of these ideas about looking to see whether or not the town ought to investigate that city stat software program or more open checkbook. I know there's pros and cons in that. Some people do and don't like it, but places use it, including the state treasurer's office. And website issues. We get a lot of stuff there, and obviously, Keith, you are integral to all that. And the town meeting changes or reforms, absolutely. People people who came last fall would like to be incented to come again next spring, but they won't if they have to stay till 1 in the morning. All right, that's it for me.
Is that all?
That's all.
Okay.
Other than the admonition to, you know, let's do them. Let's do them.
Yeah.
Okay, I caught a couple.
Oh, well, all right. They're all in there.
All right, that town meeting bylaw. I think, did we establish who was gonna,
I think it's everybody.
We did.
Yeah, I think the whole crew should be taking a look at that. You know, bring
Yeah.
it before us, let's talk about it,
Schedule
let's
it.
see what it is, and let's see what type of changes we want.
Moderator with the town clerk,
Absolutely.
Right.
others.
Yep.
okay.
And
Town
have it-
council.
Let's schedule it so we can hear from those folks that were frustrated that night,
Okay.
and put out what our proposed changes are, and,
Probably not a bad candidate for a little working group.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got enough going here, I trust us. The rest of the year to go. Just make it shorter.
Yep.
From a scheduling standpoint, it just becomes a matter of time. I mean, the warrant will close in mid-March.
Okay.
You've got 2 meetings a month, well, you've got 6 meetings between now and then, 2 each in January, February,
Right.
March. So if you, our first regular meeting is January 9th, I know Jim's away, then our next meeting is the 23rd. You could do it then, but whenever it is, I think if we tell folks in advance when it is and then get them in. I think that one, anything you think you're bringing to town meeting has got a higher priority just in terms of time. If the goal is to complete it by town meeting, but you don't have to bring it to town meeting, then we've got till April. If you gotta bring it to town meeting, then it's the middle of March that we have to finish it.
But even if we can't meet
Put it in the
until
warrant.
January, there's no reason right now we can't be, you know, letting the moderator and the clerk and council know our intent is to do this and, you know,
We want your input.
yeah, think about it. These people, they all know. They have, you know, associations they belong to.
I think step one is let's get the bylaw out there and let everybody kick it in the.
Well, which bylaw?
kick it in the, town meeting bylaw.
The only one we have is, the only bylaw we have pertaining to town meeting is the ballot and checklist on,
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking
Well,
about.
how do we know that's the only, there might be other changes too. I don't know. I'd like to know what these people think, you know? That's certainly a very, that's got a big bullseye on it in my mind,
Right.
but who knows what other changes we could be making that, you know, might make things more efficient.
I guess my suggestion would be that if we pick a date, I think a kickoff at a selectmen's meeting would
Sure.
get more attention, we can invite people to it.
Yep.
So if we just pick the date that you want to do that, then we will invite people.
Second meeting in January.
Yeah, that's
You know, and tell them to bring their ideas, that's all I say.
Exactly, let them know it's coming and start thinking. Put your thinking caps on. Okay, so that's next action on the bylaw. On the master plan one, so I know, our master plan update steering committee chairman, Mr. Paolavella, would like to actually come in January and give an update as well, so we can spend a little bit more time on that. As you were talking, Paul, about making sure our board's input is into the process, I thought, how about as a quick kickstart, I could send them over this goal update and offer to spend some time reviewing it with them and
Yeah,
making
a
sure
little
it's.
cover memo saying, you know, we want to make sure, you know,
This
this is what we've been working
yeah.
on, and some of these things are already integrated in
Yep.
the master plan, and we hope the
Double
rest
check
of them are.
that all of them are, right, exactly. Okay, that sounds good. Those were the couple I picked out that I just want to make sure we knew exactly what we were doing.
Good job, by the way, tell Kevin.
Is that you from you,
Send me
Jim?
down checks. He's not here. I didn't bring it back.
Okay, any thoughts from
So,
your gentleman's
yeah,
side?
I guess the only comments I have is essentially what Paul said was, keep bringing it in front of us, because every time you look at it, you see a name next to a goal, and you say, hey, you know what, I need to get on the horse and get going, so, specifically the public safety, you know, I haven't really done anything with that, and there's some, low-hanging fruit, so to speak, that we can really get going on. And then just, you know, the fiscal plan, you know, we just need to meet, essentially, so, that's all I have. But it's good to have this,
Yeah,
you know,
it's great.
instead of every 6 months, maybe every 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, let's sit down and see what it's all about.
Yep, quarterly. Yep.
But one thing I want to bring up, under Elder and Human Service needs, can we add on housing on that? Because I know that the planning board's had a meeting that I think 3 of us participated in. They're having another one in January. We have Gino back there from the Housing Authority, all working together to try to bring about some new kind of housing. When I went to the COA meeting today, that probably 25 minutes was just on discussion, because they have a subcommittee on that too, so.
And my takeaway from that meeting, amongst other things, was, you think when these things are just naturally lucrative, but not, they're lucrative in rich towns, but there's a lot of overhead costs and low margins, so that towns, I think, if they want it to happen, you can't just wait for the market to provide it, even if you provide them the bylaws. We're going to have to get actively engaged in that.
COA brought that up today, because they recognize that Littleton is Littleton, and we're not a Lincoln, and so some of the
Right.
projects that happen out there probably wouldn't fit, and they were saying, what can we do, or what can we change zoning bylaws, or what projects can we do that would attract and keep Littleton residents in town, so.
That's a good one. Okay, so we'll get master plan in one of our meetings in January.
Can we do that on the 9th?
I think so,
Just because I
yeah.
don't have anything else on the 9th.
There we go, we'll pick that. It'll be innocuous
Jim's
master
out of
plan
town, so we
update.
just-
It'll be all right.
I'm moving things to the other date, so.
Okay, all right. Anything else on goals?
Probably see if the EDC wants to come in then, too.
Yeah, that's a good
By
idea.
then, we probably should have something going on the
Neil?
website.
Sure, okay, so for the January 9th US meeting, updates from master plan. Steering committee.
And just while we're transitioning, you did mention it during the discussion, but just while there's a blank moment, reminder that there is the fire station groundbreaking this Saturday at 8 AM down at the fire station. Come join us.
At the old fire station.
At the old, yes,
Oh, it is? Oh, of course.
The old, yeah.
the old and the new.
The once in future.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Okay, any other goals, discussion? Good. Ready to move on to host community agreements.
I'm so glad that you asked, because when at the last meeting, Mr. Carr said, we could get an update on host community agreements, and I have been wanting to spend a lot of quality time putting it together, because they were all hanging out there, and they're in 1,000 places, so it was great that I had a mission and a purpose to focus on.
Should we thank you or Clancy?
Yep.
All of us. So I
Team
have
effort.
half the staff working on stuff too, so I appreciate it. And I also put together, you've got a detailed implementation table here along with the attachments, but I thought it might be helpful to just summarize them up on the big screen as well. And for starters, it's that we have 8, what I'm calling host community agreements. For the very first one, we hadn't even thought to call it an HCA. Is that we have an MOA with Sam Park for the MassWorks project, and since then, and that was in 2012, and since then, we've had a number of so-called host community agreements that have been in place. And I think a number of them will be worth longer discussions at a later point, but as a jumping off point, the MassWorks one with Sam, you may recall, we obtained a $1.8 million, we the town obtained a $1.8 million MassWorks grant, which helped Sam as a developer address many of the traffic mitigation issues that he was going to have to construct the point. And in all, there was about, the contract that was let was for almost $3 million, of which $1 million came from Sam. But because of the state grant, we were able to get, 2/3 of that from state funding. As part of that agreement, Sam promised to give us, when we asked for it, $65,000 for Russell Street sidewalk. Well, we don't what I'm going to suggest, and what I'm suggesting in here is, since Sam hasn't paid the amount in large measure because I've held off asking him for it till we were ready to go with the project, now that we have another funding source for Russell Street, I would like us to entertain a discussion with Sam about having that money repurposed, frankly, for whatever you say. There may be other projects that, Sam would like to help take credit for, maybe something with recreation, I don't know, but whatever you decide. But what I'd like to do is to entertain the notion with Sam of amending that agreement, still getting the money, but putting it to another purpose. And if it ended up being a Community Preservation Act eligible project, then you
State
could,
match.
you could get the state matching funds for it. But in any event, we had the opportunity, I think, with discussions with Sam to repurpose those funds, and I think we ought to do that.
Well, Madam Chair, let me just speak to that. As I said earlier, we have a meeting on the 21st to meet with MassDOT in regards to their big project. There's a lot of sidewalks in town that need help. So before we make any decision, I would suggest, let's see what MassDOT's going to do for us and get the 65,000. We have a new engineer on board now. Let's take a look at all our sidewalks in towns. The planning board should be, as developments come before them, having sidewalks in mind. And if there's no sidewalks in the subdivision, well, what sidewalks out on our streets can be helped out by that? So I would just make that suggestion. Okay with the CPA thing, but keep it on sidewalks.
Yeah, and even so, even if it's other sidewalks, the agreement says Russell Street sidewalks. So we'd want to at least take the Russell
Exactly.
Street out and, and whatever you want to use the money for.
Yep.
Just entertain a discussion with Sam. Okay, then, the
But
next.
that's the last piece of the puzzle too, right? I mean,
Right, the
other
rest
than
of it's
that, that's
The
been.
rest of it's done, the
completed,
project's
right.
done, and we may even owe him money, because he donated, we're doing a final accounting, and if there is money, he gave us money up front so that we could sign a contract with the contractor. With all the final punch list, if there's money that we owe him back, it will be easier for him to give it to us towards the $65,000 that he owes us. So Bonnie's working on that calculation. The first formal host community agreement was for the Village at Reed Meadow, over 55 development. That was, we let the developer, in concert with the planning board, let the developer out of a deed restriction for an over 55 unit, because he couldn't sell them. He couldn't sell them as deed restricted for affordable. So we agreed to let him build 4 additional units, for which we would get a percentage, we would get 7% of the sale of the 4 duplex units. We've gotten money from 3 of the 4 sales thus far, nearly $70,000. All of that's been put in CPA housing, and we anticipate that we'll get about $23,000 on the sale of the 4th unit when that happens. When that does happen, that will be an amount only for housing, so it should go into the CPA for housing to match with the state funds.
And that one's complete.
And then that's done. 15 Great Road, we are within $175,000 of completion of this, that we have received $823,000 in mitigation funds to date. Another $175,000 is anticipated. Now those are from 3 sources. First, there was $100,000 given for recreation purposes. That was the part of the deal that the planning board had structured. Then we got 8% on the final sales of the so-called non-easement lots on Gristmill. And then we got 4.25% on the final sales of the adjacent Orchard subdivision. So, and the 3 of those together will ultimately total just under $1 million. $998,000 is what our projection is. We have deposited into the CBA fund some of that total. We deposited everything that we had on account as of May, and some more has come in since then. So we've deposited so far $631,000 thus far, so that and there's $192,000 in hand that we have not deposited yet. So that 192 could go into, could go into the CPA at town meeting. We don't know that we'll get the remaining 175,000 this year, or this fiscal year, it depends on when the lots are completed and sold. So it might be in a year, it might be, in a matter of months. So there's the possibility over time that we would have the ability to put, we've already put 600,000 in, we can put another 360,000 into the CPA fund from this source. And it's not, and again, only the original $100,000 was earmarked for recreation, the rest are at your discretion. Potpourri Group, that host community agreement called for $300,000, 200 from the property owner, 100 from the company. That entire amount's been paid. It was paid in June and July after town meeting. So we have the total of $300,000 on account. And if you choose to do it in a CPA eligible project, we can put it in the fund. The K property, no money is changing hands on that. It will ultimately be a donation of land to, or at least 11 acres for conservation purposes. The land that's described in the host community agreement that triggers the sale of this, the donation of this 11 acres, that particular land has not been the subject of any application submitted to the planning board yet. So, until that application submitted and acted on by the planning board, it doesn't trigger the gift of the land. So that's in progress. That's something that we'll just have on hold and keep our eye on. Cooper Farm, that's twofold. It involves the Cooper Farm property per se, and it also involves property at on Goldsmith Street at 9 to 11 Goldsmith Street, a 12-unit rental project of which 25% of those units would be affordable. Oh, sorry. Oh, did I? Okay. Getting ahead of myself. So an application has been filed with the planning board for the Cooper property, but not the Goldsmith property yet.
I thought that the 100% of the Goldsmith was affordable. No?
For the over 55s?
Yeah.
It was all rentals.
Yeah, because it's all rental. 100% of the Goldsmith Street property for rentals, they were gonna hold it in perpetuity, and that it would be all counted toward our housing stock, because it was all rental.
That's correct. It all counts, but 75% of it is market rate,
Okay.
and 25% of it is
Gotcha.
affordable. So in order for it to be counted, in order for us to count all 100% of the rentals, 25% of them have to be deed restricted as
Gotcha.
affordable. So that's what that meant.
Okay.
So that one is, I dare say that on the main event, Cooper, that the Board of Selectmen in the host community agreement referenced a plan that you reviewed. That plan is close to, but not exactly the same as the plan that's now in front of the planning board for the subdivision, in part because there's additional information, there's additional engineering, maybe you should put this there instead of there. Those issues have been identified as a matter of record for the planning board, that the detailed notes that you see here, or in this update, were what Town Council Chris Heap had prepared, and which we filed with the planning board as part of their public hearing process. I think we have the opportunity at some point, I think it would make sense for the two boards to meet jointly, rather than have the applicant shuttle back and forth. If there are good reasons why the plan should be changed, if you all hear them at the same time, it will be easier to say, okay, well, sure, then move this line from here to there, we get it. So I think
Agreed.
that's the way to resolve that.
Yes, please.
Okay, then we've got the two most recent agreements signed. Host community agreement with Sanctuary Medicinals, which calls for, once they're in operation, $50,000 per year in years 1 and 2, $75,000 years 3 and 4, $100,000 in succeeding years, and if the medical marijuana cultivation is expanded to include other uses, i.e. now, recreational or however you're calling it, with the passage of question 4, our host community agreement calls for an additional $10,000 per year. That application is in a dual process right now. They've applied for their license from the state, the Mass Department of Public Health. We are the cultivation site for that state license. Gardner is the dispensary location, so they're together. Also, the planning board will be receiving a special permit application in the very near future. Staff has met with Jason and the team from Sanctuary. Sanctuary is offering to take us up to tour their facility in New Hampshire. I think the date that's been offered is Saturday, the 14th. Jim might be getting off the plane then that day, but that's a date that's being offered. It's a Saturday daytime, and so we'll see how that goes. The application will be moving forward to the planning board at its meeting in January, and we'll probably continue for another meeting or two after that. Then, and we just don't know at the state level. Well, I think there's two things we don't know. One is, what's the licensing procedure going to be to expand medical marijuana licenses to other uses, non-medical uses? And secondly, what's the current federal administration is choosing not to enforce federal law that prohibits marijuana sales if it's done at the state level. And the next administration may have a different position on that. They may choose to enforce federal law, or they may view it as a states' rights issue. I'm really not sure. We don't know yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then lastly, the host community agreement with Patriot Beverage for the former Sunny Delight property. That HCA gives the town $20,000 by year 5 of the TIF agreement, the point at which they add 50 jobs. So that's on our radar screen. There's a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Boston when that application goes in front of the state board, and I will be there with officials from Patriot Beverage.
Great. Very good update.
Yes, thank you. I think as they fall off, I think we'd look for an update, but at least once a year.
I'd be glad to do that.
This is good to keep everybody informed.
I'm glad to have it all in one place, too.
Yeah.
It was all
A lot.
in one place.
It occurs to me, if we're gonna be getting a joint meeting with the planning board at some point to review the Cooper thing, we probably ought to look at any of our other topics that we have identified as goals that might also involve the planning board, that some of those open space farmland stuff, it's a good time to get a dialogue going with them on some proactive stuff. Plus, master plan implementation, it's not too far away.
Just cross-board communication would be good, too.
Yeah, we haven't done that in a while, we don't have any
Exactly.
issues with them, but,
Right.
why wait for one?
Exactly.
Very good.
Okay. That brings us
Oh, and
to,
if I could just say, those charts that were up on the screen, I will have linked to the update from tonight's meeting, if the public wants to take a look at that.
that's great. Sure they will. All right, so we are in section 5 now, with the first one up being the renewal of annual licenses for 2017, and we've got quite a list. We've got Class 1 and 2, common particular, AADs, lodging, entertainment, valuable secondhand item, and we've got, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 businesses under all those different categories.
And I know last week you actually read the names of the liquor
Yeah,
licenses.
it ain't gonna happen today.
Dispense with,
It's not gonna happen today.
But all of these have been double-checked, right?
Yeah.
They still exist, we're not giving licenses to people that closed 6 months ago or anything like that.
I got tax verification status and workers' comp from all the places on the list, so
Terrific.
they're all still there.
Great, thank you.
Good.
I'll just look for an update from the chiefs, make sure there's no issues.
Any comments, chiefs?
No issues with us on any of those businesses or approvals.
Not now, anyway. But it was helpful to have them on a list.
Right.
And we went over them. Clancy did a great job coordinating it and went over with all the staff, so.
Nice.
And this thing with Littleton in here, they just need to provide a timeline and.
So that's
they're
all
good.
settled, right? Chief?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was just settled today.
Brilliant. Excellent. Very good.
Ready? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the annual renewal license for Class 1 and 2, common particular, automatic amusement devices, entertainment, lodging house, and valuable second-hand item licenses for calendar year 2017. The list of said licenses to be made a part hereof.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. All right, 5B, retiree group health.
This is actually something that the board had discussed in executive session for its collective bargaining strategy about a month or so ago, and we're happy to report that we can bring you all 4 town union contracts that have been signed and are ready for approval. The school committee assigned the teacher's contract last Thursday night. I'm still waiting to hear from Light and Water about how their 2 unions are. Scott Edwards has indicated both unions were amenable, but we do need to get the signed agreement. What this is about is our Insurance Advisory Committee, which is a group that our finance team works with throughout the year. It's comprised of representatives of all the employee groups, all the unions, non-union, retiree rep, and we review plan design changes each year, what the projected costs are, and consult with them closely. And in recent weeks, we received the unanimous recommendation from the Insurance Advisory Committee that we needed to adopt a particular strategy to ensure that the retiree premiums did not go up by 10% this year, 10.72% this year. There's a strategy for capping that at 4.5%. It involved some adjusting of the co-pays in the various categories. The unions, the IAC members said it's a no-brainer. They got it. I'm very proud that all of our unions agreed to the changes as well. We had to actually go back to the old system of bargaining with all unions simultaneously in order to implement this change for January. About 4 years ago, we went through the group health law reform change, where we came up with a plan for cost savings. We convened what's called a public employee committee under the new statute, gave them the opportunity to give us an alternate plan that achieves the same savings. That process takes months, and if we went through that process, it would be June before we could reap these savings. The IAC recognized that. They asked us to move faster, and so we went the old route of getting an agreement signed with all of our unions. And so we're hoping to be able to implement this for January. As I say, we just at this point need the signatures from the remaining light and water unions, and have been in touch with Scott Edwards about that. But everyone else is on board.
Fantastic. Excellent summary. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Okay, do we need to say anything in the motion about the LELW's approval? Like contingent upon or something?
No, well, your vote stands alone, because you're
Okay.
approving the 4 contracts that you get to approve. School committee voted to approve the one that they
There,
did, so the
okay.
only remaining thing is
Is
for
the-
Mr. Edwards, who I guess is the signatory for those contracts, to get them and sign them, and then we'll be all set to go.
Got it. Excellent.
Ready, Madam
Ready.
Chair? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Littleton Highway, AFSCME Local 1703, the Littleton Police Unit, Massachusetts Coalition of Police Local 204, Littleton Dispatch Unit, Mass Cop Local 204A, and the Littleton Professional Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 4599, to implement group health insurance modifications regarding the town's retiree benefits as unanimously recommended by the Insurance Advisory Committee.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for your work on
We
that.
do have 4 agreements that we need to sign.
Sign.
Get them going.
Yep.
Let's go.
Start them down the pipe. We gotta get you those little stickers, so,
Do you need the originals?
Yep,
Got it.
okay.
all right, 5C, and I see Alicia is here. Special gift fund donations for Park and Rec Youth Scholarship Fund Holiday Helpers. So, talk to us about the good news that we've got happening here from the Mighty Oak Fund.
So there are 2 separate things. Last year, I came to you to establish a youth sports scholarship fund, which we did. And the Mighty Oak Foundation is who started gave that first donation. And so the $7,500 is that annual donation to put the money into the coffers to be able to allow those scholarships to continue for yet another year. So that would be the first piece of that, to accept that donation.
Can I ask who the Mighty Oak
Yeah.
Foundation
Ringing a
is?
bell in
Just,
Yeah, well, I'm like, I don't know, I wish he was here. He was here when we first did it, so I can kind
Yeah.
of say his name. So Bobby Crench he has this organization, it's him and his sister. And it was created in memorandum of his father that passed away. And his father was really big about giving back to the community. So his sister lives in New York and he lives here, and they both decided that, they still would do the work for the foundation, but they would be active in their own individual communities. So that's what they decided to do. So,
nice,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. And the second one is, I think we should talk about having a fund line item for the holiday helpers specifically. We've done really well last year and this year as well. We're doing great. So it would be fantastic to be able to just have that money separate, so that, the money that's left over at the end of this year, we do that anyway, but this way it's in a formalized actual fund that would be separated. So it just would be better to have it in a fund. So to create a fund for holiday helpers specifically. But this year we did get 3 large donations from the Rotary Club for $1,000. The Littleton Police Association, Local 204, also for $1,000. And Boy Scout Troop 20, they actually wanted to give $1,000, and I said, you guys, that was like amazing, because the year before, I think they gave us $500. So I said, we're doing really well. We've had a lot of folks come in and pick up gifts or the ornaments to bring gifts in. So we've been doing really, really well with, the community at large helping out. So I told them to take the extra money and, go do a project, do something nice for themselves or something. But we're really,
Nice.
glad that they wanted to give that $500 to us. It's really great. So, and that came from the Holiday Bazaar that we did as well, the pictures with Santa.
And remind us what the Holiday Helpers Program is.
You got it. So the Holiday Helpers Program is, essentially it's a program where we enroll families that are going through financial hardship throughout the holiday season. So once we have established that the family is in need, we'll have the kids fill out letters to Santa, so they'll have their top gifts that they want for the year, and then we also get a list of what their needs are, so like winter coats, winter boots, things like that. And so we create these little ornaments that have each individual gift for all of these kids that are enrolled. I think we have 69 children this year. They're all Littleton residents. And so, we always have the goal to try to, and it's kind of a lofty goal, to do $150 for each kid. And I think we're doing well to surpass that right now this year, which is really
Nice.
great. So I don't have final numbers for you because tomorrow will be our last day that the public can bring gifts in or do donations. And the families will pick up on the 14th and the 15th. So after that, I can calculate and come back and tell you, what we did, but we usually do like a little, blurb on Facebook and our website to let folks know what, the community accomplished, so.
Absolutely.
It's a great program.
It is, yeah.
We have a comment from Chief.
Yeah, just to let the board know, the $1,000 from the Littleton Police Association is the direct result of No Shave November.
Yes.
No way.
The charity, Mike Croy asked me to find a charity, and we wanted to stay local, so what better a cause?
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, all right, excellent. Any questions, members, comments?
Great work, thanks for coming down tonight.
Yeah, thank
Glad
you.
to do it, yeah.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53A, as follows. 1, deposit into the Youth Sports and Camp Scholarship Fund established on December 14, 2015, a donation of $7,500 from the Mighty Oak Foundation. And 2, to establish a special gift fund account, the proceeds of which shall be used without further appropriation by Park and Recreation for the Holiday Helpers Program, and to deposit into said fund the following donations: $1,000 from the Rotary Club of Littleton, $1,000 from the Littleton Police Association, Local 204, and $500 from the Boy Scout Troop 20.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. It's awesome.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All
And
right.
if we could get thank you letters to each of these wonderful, generous groups. Thank you. That'd be awesome. All right.
Thank you. Merry
You too.
Christmas.
Wow, that's a nice topic to kind of
End the
wrap up
day
the
with.
year with. Minutes approval.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have Board of Selectmen meetings from Monday, November 28th, 2016. Any issues, comments?
I'm fine with the minutes as they are, because I don't think there was anything controversial there, but I still have a preference for more of a narrative in there. I know we have video records, so I suppose we could go back and check that, but, it just, the flavor of certain discussions is, I don't know.
I'm gonna beef it up a little bit.
Yeah, but those get out anyway, they have a life of their own.
Yeah, really. All right,
No,
a little,
you do a fine
little
job.
more
I'm just-
flavor around.
You're doing fine. We gotta work.
Oh, we shut the camera off, you're a live wire too.
When the camera's off.
And for Thursday, December 1st, 2016, any issues? For Monday, December 5th, 2016. And that's it. I would move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the meetings for November 28th, December 1st, and December 5th, 2016.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Make
Yeah,
make a motion to adjourn.
second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah, or whatever it is you do, enjoy it.
Whatever it is you do.
No hats out there, right? No hats out there? That's good.